Thank you for your yield. I rise today in opposition to H.R. 7608. Before I get into the details of Division C, the Interior and Environment section of the bill, I'd like to take a moment to thank Chairman Lowy and Ranking Member Granger for their steadfast leadership on the Appropriations Committee. I'd like to extend my thanks to my friend and colleague, Betty McCollum, the Chair of the Interior and Environment Subcommittee. Chair McCollum has been an excellent leader, and I'm glad to have the opportunity to serve alongside her as the ranking member of the subcommittee. The fiscal year 21 Interior and Environment Bill includes many bipartisan initiatives to conserve and protect our natural resources and to increase the federal commitment to honor our treaties and trust responsibility with American Indians and Alaska Natives. The bill increases investments in wildfire suppression, hazardous fuels activities, provides additional support for the National Park Service and EPA's Rural Water Technical Assistance Grants, and fully funds the Payment in Lieu of Taxes program. The bill also provides significant funding, more than a quarter of the bill, to help tribal communities across Indian country with health care, education, and law enforcement needs. This support is essential, given on a per capita basis, COVID-19 has hit Indian country harder than any other area in our nation. As co-chair of the Bipartisan Task Force to End Sexual Violence, I was pleased to see critical funding included to implement the Violence Against Women Act in Indian country and support Operation Lady Justice, an initiative established by the President to address missing and murdered Indigenous people, human trafficking, and other violent crimes. Chair McCollum and her staff have worked hard to accommodate these requests from members on both sides of the aisle in the bill that will be appreciated by our constituents, regardless of party. In particular, I am grateful for the continued robust investment in the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative, which is essential to reducing harmful algal blooms, eradicating Asian carp, and addressing coastline erosion. However, despite these investments in bipartisan priorities, there are concerns in this bill that will need to be addressed before we reach bipartisan agreement. First and foremost, the bill adds several new controversial policy riders, administrative provisions, and report language directives. These partisan provisions prevent the administration from reducing regulatory burdens and limit responsible natural resource development. Limiting our domestic supply of much-needed natural resources does not decrease our demand for them. It only makes us more dependent on foreign nations to obtain them, which is not only a national security concern, but is also an economic security concern. We cannot protect American jobs if we cannot supply them with the energy and raw materials. This bill also eliminates several long-standing common-sense provisions that have enjoyed bipartisan support for many years. Adding these provisions back will be essential to reaching a bipartisan agreement. A final area of concern is the funding level proposed in this bill. This bill benefits from off-budget emergency funding provided in other bills, and instead of using the savings from the passage of the Great American Outdoors Act towards paying down our ever-growing national debt, the bill reallocates those funds. The bill also includes a new title with $15 billion in so-called emergency spending for additional infrastructure. To be clear, there are critical infrastructure programs in this bill that need these funds and more, but that alone does not give the federal government license to continue to borrow and spend without any overarching plan for fiscal responsibility. So it is for a combination of these funding and policy reasons that I cannot support this bill at this time and in its current form. But I am committed to working with my colleagues on both sides of the aisle as we move through the fiscal year 21 process to craft a bill that can receive bipartisan support. Until then, I strongly urge my colleagues to vote no on this package. Thank you, and I yield back the balance of my time.